If you've watched any of my deck reviews before, you're probably thinking that things look a little different, and there's a simple explanation for that. This isn't a deck review, it's a deck preview. Let me explain. Just recently, I reached out to artist and designer Lorenzo Gaggiotti of Stockholm17, and long story short, he sent me the prototype for his upcoming playing card deck project that's both boldly modern and firmly rooted in tradition. The House of the Rising Spade features some gorgeous artwork, and I'm gonna show it to you in a few seconds. Just a quick note before we begin, this video comes to you with the full understanding that this is not a finished product. So although Lorenzo's expressed satisfaction with the way his prototype has come out thus far, it is a prototype deck and it's meant as a design proof. So the final product may be a little different, and not just because of changes Lorenzo might make along the way. Anyway, it's just a caveat. Let's dive in.
The House of the Rising Spade is slated for launch on Kickstarter at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, March 25th, 2018. Lorenzo has had multiple successfully funded and perhaps more importantly successfully fulfilled projects on Kickstarter, including the Requiem deck, the number 17 decks, Les Chat Rouge, and the Gemini decks. Although the prototype deck seen here is printed by MPC, he has plans to use both the USPCC and Cartamundi to create each of the two main variants of this new project. The initial available rewards for backing the project will include a black cardstock deck called the Cartomancer Edition, to be created by Cartamundi, and a white deck called the Pharaoh Edition that will be printed by the United States Playing Card Company. It's the Pharaoh Edition design that's reflected in the prototype deck seen here. There are some key differences with the two decks aside from the cardstock, but we'll get into that a little later.
In my email discussions with Lorenzo, he mentioned to me that his influence for the name of the deck had obviously come from the classic Animals 1964 hit music track, House of the Rising Sun. He told me that his chief goal for the deck was to elicit wonder. He wants the collector to imagine what a medieval house with its 12 court card occupants would look like. In fact, he wants the physical makeup of the house to be a choice made by us. It's up to us to decide how big the house was, how many rooms it held, and what it was made from.
The card backs are built around the image of keys. There are 4 antique-styled golden keys crisscrossing across the ghosted background that brings to mind what it's like to look up at a domed ceiling. Each key has one of the 4 different suits folded into its bow, and the teeth of each key is different. There are 2 keyholes on opposite ends, and an astute eye will immediately notice that although at first glance the backs appear to be two-way, they are in fact one-way design. Now this proves to be somewhat irrelevant since the faces of the cards are also one way, but that's again something we'll get into a little later. Lorenzo stated that although the prototype currently has a gold-yellow ink on the backs, the final production version will have gold metallic inks in their stead. The black Cartomancer deck will feature cold stamped foil on the backs. On the front of the cards, there are some more bold choices. The aces are very interesting. The ace of spades is by far the most grand. The large spade pip contains more keys, this time held aloft by the king and queen of spades, and there's another keyhole with the Roman numeral 17 etched above it. This is flanked by the mirrored image of 2 women, each seemingly involved in some kind of tarot-like divination. The one on the left has a text unfurled in front of her, and the one on the right a small representation of the ace of clubs and the 4 of diamonds on the table in front of her, and both versions hold the ace of spades. The other aces also have sections of the house written at the top, as well as the golden image of the corresponding key. The ace of hearts reads library, the ace of clubs reads garden, and the attic can be found on the ace of diamonds. The pips are beautiful, nice and bold and chunky, decidedly vintage. They have a hand-painted quality to them that is very attractive. The shape of the diamond pip is especially unique. The Pharaoh edition takes influence from another of Lorenzo's inspirations, the Squared Pharaoh 366 deck printed by the Russell and Morgan Company back in the 19th century. The 2 decks share another important trait worth mentioning, the index-less spot cards, and because of the pip layout on the faces, they are also one way. It's worth noting that the Cartomancer deck will feature cold stamped gold foil on the faces as well, primarily in the form of a poker-style border. Additionally, the spot cards for the Black Edition will feature a tarot-style pip and index layout.
The one-way artwork of the court cards is just, well, beautiful, and the absolute highlight of this deck. There's an attention to detail that's frankly amazing, and Lorenzo's made some design choices that inform us greatly, or at the very least awaken our imagination as to who or what these people might be.
I've given the characters names, completely my invention of course, in part to make them easier to talk about, and partly because the artwork is so evocative that I quickly and easily imagined backstories and traits for them.
The remarkable aspect of art is its ability to mean different things to different people. And because Lorenzo's left it up to me to interpret, I see the term house as a synonym for family or clan, not at all dissimilar from House Stark or House Lannister on Game of Thrones, for instance. In my version of Lorenzo's world, the suits might be the House of Clubs, Diamonds, Hearts, and the House of the Rising Spades, which to me sounds like quite an ominous bunch, the Empire striking back and all that.
The Wraith is the Jack of Spades, a coiled viper slithering around him, a soul so dark that you can't even see the light of his eyes. The Queen of Spades and her maleficent horn crown and armored dress communicates the notion that she's probably poisoned just about every apple in the orchard. And the Black Knight wears a kingly crowned helmet that's etched with runes and holds a formidable blade. By contrast to the seemingly villainous and powerful Spades, the hearts bleed with heroism. The falconer points the way for his bird and carries a quiver of arrows. The sorceress holds up a finger as if to ask for quiet. The top of her staff is almost a dream catcher, I imagine to pull thoughts out of the ether. I'm especially awed by the textures in the billowing skirt of her dress, like the far-reaching tentacles of an octopus. And Lionheart stands proud, sword sheathed at his side. The House of Clubs begins with the warlock-style Jack and his black cat. The maiden songstress is the queen, holding up her harp, and the sultan with his curved scimitar and long black beard seems like a commanding presence. Finally, among the diamonds is the ginger-haired warg, making the mental telepathic connection to his red wolf. And the king and queen exude wealth in their ruby-studded gold armor. All of the courts feature a micro-thin poker-style border that in the Cartomancer edition will again be gold foil as well. The courts all feature some radiating geometric lines that can feel architectural as well as magical, which sounds like a contradiction, but somehow it works. All of the court cards have a small index denoting the value of the cards, either K, Q, or J, hidden within the design to avoid misreading who is who. I do wish these were a bit larger and easier to see. Finally, the jokers round out the deck, 2 court jesters, 1 male, 1 female, in curled-toed boots.
All in all, this is a very promising deck that features amazing artwork, and if Lorenzo's mission was to elicit wonder and imagination, then I think it's mission accomplished. Be sure to keep your eyes on Kickstarter and Stockholm17.com for when the project launches. Now, if you've watched this far, please don't forget to like and subscribe. This is a new channel and I could really use your support. Let me know below what other decks you'd like to see reviewed in future reviews. Once again, I've been the Gentleman Wake, and I hope to see you next time.